Daniel,
Simon,
I think we need to address something that happened very very sadly off camera.
I'm getting a little bit triggered. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
Of course, everything on this podcast happens off camera because it is in fact a podcast.
Yeah, by virtue of the medium, you're quite right.
But we recorded an entire episode.
We did. It was about an hour and 15 minutes of absolute gold. It was
glorious,
really fun. We had a great chat. The banter was, just top shelf. It was really great.
We had a fan fiction. We had a fan fiction that we read out.
It was amazing.
I did the wrong accent, and you made me stick with it for the entire time.
Yeah.
All the clones sounded like Southern belles.
Yeah.
And well, how about we, Fergus? I think the people need to hear what happened to that episode. Daniel, what are we talking about this week?
This time, we're talking about Polaroid operation.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be a pretty big article.
It's huge. It's absolutely enormous.
Okay.
But it looks pretty interesting. So the style of camera that we're probably most familiar with have been somewhere between 1972 to sort of the late 1980s. Kicking off, of course, with the Polaroid SX70 and Cam Model 2.
So, Dan, you're recording, something went a bit Pete Tong.
Yeah.
And it's unusable.
Yeah, so basically, for, again, a little bit of... The podcast hasn't started yet, so we thought, we'd just take this time to explain what happened with the previous episode, and then also maybe give you a little bit of information of, how the sausage is made, that glorious sausage that is the Wikicast podcast. Until I started my law conversion, which was January of last year, I had a very old MacBook Pro that had served me very well, but it was sort of failing miserably, and it has since been replaced with something I use exclusively for my sort of law work and university and various other things. And I completely wiped the old laptop, reinstalled a fresh operating system, and I used that exclusively to record the podcasts and sometimes as a sort of second monitor if I'm looking at multiple things. And for reasons unknown, the audio file just completely went just berserk.
And you fought tooth and nail to try and fix it, and nothing worked.
I managed to extract the raw GarageBand file and move it onto my other laptop to see if it was just a sort of output error. I was wondering whether, because it's been saved under a certain OS, that if something has happened to that file, if I kept the raw file and not the sort of WAV, kept it in the cloud and then reinstalled another operating system on the laptop, whether that would work. Nothing. I mean, well, listeners will have heard what's happening, and it's just, everything's gone awfully choppy and it's bizarre. And most importantly, it's incredibly frustrating because it rendered the entire recording session completely useless. I mean, it's always lovely to catch up with you, Simon.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, it's safe to say that I was pretty pissed off. So all going well, this episode that you're about to hear should be absolutely fine because I am using the work laptop. And that's causing me slight stress because I don't like mixing the two. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of sort of fiddling around with files, I think. But all going well, we should be fine.
But let's have just a moment of silence, shall we, for the episode that never was, that never quite left the nest.
And I think really the moment of silence is, this is the full decommissioning of the old 2014 MacBook Pro.
F.
The one that I think you can probably recall would sort of try and take off every time you try to turn it on.
Oh, there it goes. It's on the ceiling now.
That's and what was it trying to do? Open an email. Lovely. Great. That's wonderful.
Rest in peace, MacBook. F's in chat.
F's in the chat.
Anyway. Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk about what we find. Daniel, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we're talking about Plateau fence lizard.
Ooh.
Chinese fireball.
Chinese fireball.
Very good. Very good.
Some things never change.
Hive mind. We love to see it. Yeah, the Plateau fence lizard.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me more. Like, obviously, it's an animal. Oh, well, I am assuming that this is an animal, not like a variant of car or something.
It is an animal. Would you like to hazard a guess at what kind of an animal it is?
Bird.
You're so close. You're really close. Take a few of those letters, rearrange them, take some of them away, and introduce some other letters.
Bride.
And arrange those letters in the word lizard, and you might find the answer.
So it was staring me in the face this whole time, unblinkingly.
Up in the corner of the room.
Oh, no. Sorry, no. Lizards have eyelids. I remember this because that's the difference between snakes and lizards. If you want to tell the difference, if you're in a room that's full of like long, noodly, like reptilian type things, the ones that blink are the lizards and normally harmless, and the snakes don't have eyelids.
Can I point out another clue that might give it away? If the thing you're looking at has legs.
Yeah, but some lizards are legless lizards.
Some lizards are legless lizards.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Are we playing tongue twister games?
When they shot Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, so the famous scene with all the snakes and stuff,
right?
Most of them were legless lizards, and so were completely harmless. But some of them were snakes and actually dangerous. And so apparently, what they used to do was wait and see if one of these things would blink or not. And if it blinked, they knew it'd be safe to go over and pick it up. But legless lizards are absolutely a thing.
People who believe in legless lizards, do they not believe in snakes? Is this what's happening?
It's like mermaids and dugongs.
It's like how some people believe in snails and some people believes in snails that don't have houses. You know, slugs aren't a thing.
How many? The family is Pygopodidae. Pygopodidae are known as legless lizards, snake lizards, or flap-footed lizards. And they're a type of gecko. There are 35 species in 2 subfamilies and 8 genera.
I see. Gosh.
And they look like snakes, but yeah, they are legless lizards. Absolutely a thing. Herpetology talk today, Dad.
Next time I go out drinking and I get legless, I'm going to say I'm getting legless like a lizard. And then use that as a segue into what I can guarantee will be thrilling conversation. The Plateau fence lizard has legs.
It does, Dan, and you are a professional.
Yeah.
Tell me more. More.
The Plateau fence lizard, or as you might more commonly know it as Scaloporus tristicus, Scaloporus tristicus.
Oh my God, of course, yes.
You're a wizard, Harry. Is a species of spiny lizard in the family Phrynosomatidae.
Sure, yep.
They're about, it's great, 80 millimeters from snout to vent, which is...
Oh, I love that.
Incidentally, when the doctor measures me for my annual checkup, is exactly what he says. I can see you're still 80 millimeters from snout to vent. Well done. That's very good.
I mean, surely isn't then the whole length of the lizard, right? Because the vent is the butthole, right? I imagine.
Do lizards have buttholes?
Well, I think they have cloacas, technically.
I'm Knuckles the Echidna.
I have a cloaca.
Dr. Eggman has stolen the master animal.
I was watching some Game Grumps compilations the other day. That's so funny. Game Grumps is one of these things that every now and again I just dip back into, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like, it's like comfort food. It's so like I've watched barely any of their normal videos. I exclusively consume their content in the form of compilations. So there's no context for any of the stuff that I watch.
Which is the best way, I think, to consume it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose you must be right. It says, so yeah, at up to 80 millimeters, 3.1 inches from snout to vent, the Plateau fence lizard is a greyish, brownish or greenish lizard. The upper side of its body has keeled scales.
Ooh, keeled scales.
There is a series of narrow dark brown there are a series, probably would be better, of narrow dark brown cross bands on both sides of the midline. An elongated metallic blue patch can be found on each side of the belly and each side of the throat.
Oh, that's fun.
Males are typically smaller than females, with males and females in Montezuma County measuring 6.3 millimeters and 6.7 millimeters respectively. Wow.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the blue, give them the old razzle dazzle. That sounds like a
Absolutely, yeah.
if that's a custom decal. They had to grind for that.
Yeah.
They had to go questing for like 1 million grubs, and take them back to the merchant in the village.
A custom skin.
Yeah. I've never heard of these things.
No, nor have I.
Fence lizards. Why are they called fence lizards?
The Plateau fence lizard is generally found in central Arizona, southwestern Utah, western Colorado, and the San Luis Valley. It can also be found in parts of New Mexico and Wyoming. They typically dwell in rocky and wooded areas, making use of canyon walls, boulder-strewn hillsides, fallen tree trunks, and other debris and vantage points. Perhaps that's why fence.
Yeah, you'd think they would have put fence in that list.
Yeah.
I don't want to backseat write this article, but I feel like that would have been quite an important thing to put in there.
We have 2 sentences in ecology.
Okay.
And they read thus. The Plateau fence lizard is inactive during cold periods and the hottest part of the day in summer. Full stop.
Okay.
The lizard consumes mainly insects, spiders, and other arthropods. That's it.
Oh, wow.
It is a shockingly short article, must be said.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think there'd be more to say about it, to be honest.
So much so that I've read the entire article. That's it. That's literally everything. Aside from the references, but I think we can skim over those. Oh, this is interesting.
Go on.
This must be a fairly late in the day page, because having looked at the references, of which there are 4, every single one was retrieved between the 11th and 13th of July 2021, which probably makes this article a lockdown article.
Yeah, somebody had to do something during lockdown.
Yeah.
That's an interesting bit of history. I wonder if the number of Wikipedia articles boomed during the pandemic because people just had nothing better to do than to write and edit Wikipedia. That'd be a fascinating graph to look at, actually, like the number of pages created or the number of edits per day.
So there was a lot of activity between the 11th and 13th of July by Bosoika.
Right.
And then it hasn't really been touched until the tail end of 2021, and then February and March 2022. And those sort of edits are fairly minor.
So it's sort of, it's a big burst of activity and then just little bits of bookkeeping here and then, I guess. Interesting. I was looking up, by the way, the Keeled Scales, you think, that you mentioned, are scales that, rather than being totally smooth, have a ridge down the centre that may or may not extend to the tip of the scale, making them rough to the touch. So if people have touched snakes or lizards, they are normally very smooth, but there are certain species that are very, very rough to the touch. So that's what that is. They are keeled. Don't know. I suppose keel because a keel on a boat is the bit of a hull that is not round.
Mm.
It's the line at the bottom, as it were. So I suppose, it's a scale with a keel, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Checks out.
Ooh, hang on. In some viperines, so vipers endemic to Europe, Asia, and Africa, the lateral scales are not only keeled, but the keels have minute serrations. The snakes use this as a warning and a threat display. The body is arranged in a series of parallel C-shaped coils that they rub continuously to produce a sizzling sound, rather like water on a hot plate. This method of making sound is called stridulation.
Wow.
What a great word.
Stridulation.
Oh, and it's right. So that's also what insects do. So like crickets and things, or what they called the things that come out like cicadas. I believe. I hope I'm not talking up my arse. Like crickets and things like that. That's how they make it, and that comes from. I don't know how much Latin you know, Dan, but do you know where that stridulation comes from?
Stridulation. No, I don't.
So it comes from the word file or stridulitrum, because the two components of making the sound, you have one object that is the scraper or plectrum that you move across a finely ridged surface, which is the file or stridulitrum.
I see.
there we go. That's a fun little
knowledge.
Oh yeah, I'm pulling this off the top of my head now. I definitely don't have a Wikipedia article open.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, I mean, a little bit more of how the sausage is made. Simon and I actually don't ever look at Wikipedia. We have a set amount of random articles committed to memory, and then it's all a facade about when we actually read it out. Yeah,
we're like mentats in June,
obviously.
And obviously that means I already know how you are, Dan. I know that you're doing fantastically well, and that you're still the same distance from snout to vent.
Yeah, of course. And my scales are reassuringly and suitably keeled, which is what we want to hear.
And we haven't actually. Well, we spoke obviously when we recorded the Phantom episode that no one's going to get to hear in full.
Yeah.
But quite a lot has happened since we last spoke. I mean, I've been all over the country. I've been down to Exeter to sing for Stainer's Crucifixion, which went very, very well.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to the University of Warwick. Some of the readers may have actually been there when I was speaking about Firmament at the book festival there. I was also off in Bolby in actually, is it North Yorkshire? It's certainly in the northeast of England, which is a mine that I visited to film some videos. And actually, I was on the bus to my hotel, and I was listening to the previous episode, the last episode that actually was released, to quality check it on the bus, and I had this amazing view of no, it wasn't Robin Hood Bay, but it was just along the coast from Robin Hood Bay. Beautiful part of the world, around Whitby, if you've ever been up there.
I've been to Whitby, famous for its jet and its castle that was the basis for Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that was it, because my hotel had quite a lot of Dracula stuff in it. Sort of, as a place, I don't know, do you want to be proud of the fact that you inspired a horror location?
Had lots of Dracula stuff in it.
Yeah. Everyone here is very pale and has puncture wounds on their neck. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Whereas, you've been a busy boy as well with all your legal stuff.
Oh, it's been a time. I was just saying before we started, I'm trying to figure out, was the Phantom episode recorded after or prior to Holy Week, all the singing?
I think it was just at the tip of Holy Week, if I remember rightly. I think we recorded it on the Monday or something like that.
The Monday before Good Friday?
Yes, I think so.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's been a little while.
It's been a time, I tell you. I am exhausted. My term has resumed, and I was really hoping to sort of be able to go back to the term feeling refreshed and, ready to throw myself back into study and recharged and all of those good things. And if anything, I feel more tired now than I have done at any point so far. And it's full on. But interesting. It's all very interesting.
Something that I made a change recently that has made a huge difference to how tired I feel. And this hopefully is not going to be insultingly banal. But we, up until this week, had been sleeping in our winter duvet. And I've really not been sleeping very well. I didn't really clock what it was. And we switched to our summer duvet a couple of days ago, and I've had amazing night's sleep every single night since.
Really?
And I feel like I was just too warm in bed because in my head it was still winter. So I don't know if you have a winter duvet and a summer duvet or a two-part one.
I think I do. I think I might have a sort of double tog thing. I'm sure that in one of the drawers under my bed there's another duvet. I'll see if it's a lower tog, and if so, I'm going to do that. I'm going to change them over.
Give it a go. Because it certainly made a big difference to me. Because, the past week was the first week that I had where I wasn't going off all over the country and filming and having to do a million different jobs all at once. Like, it was actually the first week where I could sort of calm down and rest up a bit. And so sleep's been a big part of that. So, hopefully that will make a difference to you as well.
I hope so. It's slightly, I was looking at my timetable and things, and it is slightly depressing to think that, everything is very, very busy at the moment, and I don't get a week off until the first week of July, I think.
Good grief.
It's a long time, and that's a week off after, I think it's 2 weeks, or a week of exams, 2 weeks of revision, and then all full term time, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
It'll be worth it when it's done.
Well, yeah,
pain is temporary, law lives forever.
That's what I keep telling myself. Just nose to the grindstone, and all shall be well.
It will be worth it. And this is hopefully, people can email in to spongyelectric@gmail.com with their own sort of stories. I imagine there are lots of people listening right now who are going through exam seasons or coursework or any number of things. And if that is you, send us in your story and how you're doing, and know that you've got both Dan and I's best wishes
Absolutely.
for all of your revision and all your studying, because we've been through it. Let's be honest. I'm very glad that I don't have to do exams anymore. Don't get me wrong, I've God, what's the advice that we can give to people, Dan? We normally do this later on in response to me, but what is the number one thing that you can advise people who are going into exam season now? What's a practical thing that will make the most difference?
I think don't burn out.
Yeah.
Don't get so into the exam period that you suddenly think, right, this is it, hell for leather, here we go. Because you will burn out, and that will do more harm than good. So I think you've got to be, I say this, I don't do this, or rather I'm very bad at doing it, but don't think, oh well, I'll just have another late night finishing off whatever I want to finish, and then I can catch up my sleep elsewhere. Routine is really, really important, especially exam technique routine is good, but making sure like waking up at the same time every day and trying to go to sleep at the same time every day will only help your circadian rhythm, something like that.
Yes, I think that's really, really important. What about you? Do you have any advice, any hot takes? I think related to that one is ring fence time that is dedicated for not studying. And no matter what, don't breach that time.
Yeah.
So you have time that you are going to be using for explicitly not studying. And go to the gym, go for a run, play video games, paint Warhammer, play some music, whatever it is. Just have time that is separate. And you're going to feel in that time like you are not being productive, and that this isn't helping, and I could be studying right now. But by not taking that time, you would reduce your overall productivity. And take it from me, it's absolutely, it's not worth burning out. Even if you burn out the day after the exam, from a mental health perspective, it is not worth doing. So yes, it's important to work hard, but also work hard within a set structure where you don't overstep the boundaries. And you, at the end of the day, I suppose, respect your body and your mind's health in one way or another.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing, which I always recommend if you're going into revision specifically, is to use the spaced repetition technique. And what I would do is actually get a paper diary. You could do this digitally, of course, but get a paper diary, write down when you have revised something, and make a note for the next day to look at it again, and then a week on from when you first did it, have a look at it, and then a month on from when you first did it, have a look at it. And that, depending on how the timings work for your exam, now is a pretty good time to do that. So it means that you revise it and then you look at it and look at it again, and then it's really, by the time you look at it a month later and revise it again, that is really in your head. Yeah. And so what I would do in my third year exams was have this paper diary, and by the end of the revision period, I'd open up the diary and I'd be able to look up, right, what am I doing today? I'm revising this thing that I did yesterday, I'm revising this thing I did a week ago, and these 4 things that I did a month ago, whatever it was. And then within that, you can also plan out what you need to do on a given day. You separate out your curriculum into 40 chunks that are spread out over 40 days. So you have stuff that you've planned to do and stuff that you're also coming back to. And that was a technique that worked really, really well for me. So I'd highly recommend that.
There you go. Killer advice.
God, what is content, Dan?
It is.
We can't have actual content.
It's sensible. It's the most alarming thing.
We got to stop this.
We really do.
I command that you put this to a stop and tell me instead about your choral piece of the week.
And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please. My choral piece of the week this week, Simon, I think I'm sort of stuck with what I want to choose, because there are a selection of pieces that I want to make my choral piece of the week, because they are going to be performed on Saturday the 7th of May.
Okay.
Is it the 7th of May? Yeah, Saturday the 7th of May in Drewstainton Church, which is a lovely, lovely little village nestled on the edge of Dartmoor, by the Chagford Singers.
Oh, yes.
Because we are approaching our summer concert, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
It's a concert of 2 halves with an interval and refreshments and things. The first half will be the Vivaldi Gloria, which is very exciting.
The whole piece?
The whole thing.
Wow.
Which is great, actually, because it goes for about half an hour. Or probably not even that,
Yeah, I think it's about that.
It's pretty short. And then the second...
Great piece. It's underrated as a whole piece. Like, obviously everyone knows the first movement, but the whole of the Vivaldi's Gloria is like, it's a really nice, neat, tight half-hour set.
Yeah. It's an interesting piece to do as well, because it can be very different depending on the sort of edition or version that you choose to perform, because there are sort of 4 or 5 different Vivaldi Glorias.
Right.
With various different sort of additions and omissions and sort of changes throughout. We're doing the regular, I forget which number it's known as, but anyway, it's the sort of the one that everyone goes, oh, the Vivaldi Gloria. Yes, it's that one. So doing that, and then in the second half, we're doing music that spans, as early as Orlando Gibbons through some madrigal stuff, a little bit of Bruckner, then some sort of we sort of working through time. Lauridsen, Giello, Rutter, Franck is in there as well. So I think it's a really sort of interesting, varied program. So for those who want to come and hear the Vivaldi Gloria because it's a bop, which it is, of course, they can hear that. But then I think too it's going to be sort of music for a summer's evening, and there's lots of sort of jolly things and music that I think will be new to lots of people, which is very exciting. So I think...
So what your choral piece of the week is the entire repertoire of your summer concert.
Yeah. It's very hard to choose. I don't know whether I can. And more importantly, I don't know whether... So the one that really stands out, the one that I absolutely adore, is The Silver Swan by Gibbons. And I don't know whether I've done that before.
Yeah. I think you might have done.
See, this is it. Well, look, let's tentatively say it's The Silver Swan by Orlando Gibbons.
Sure.
And if I have done that before, then, dear readers, please write in and tell me how useless I am. And I will send you out a full track listing playlist of everything in the concert that you can listen to. And that will serve you right. They'll be fine.
Or if if you're in the Southwest, what was that time and date and location again, Dan?
It's going to be in Drew Stainton Church in Devon at 7:30 on Saturday the 7th of May. And it's going to be very jolly and very good. And yeah, if you're around or if you're in that neck of the woods, you should absolutely come along because they're going to be marvellous. You
can, for the first time in the history of this podcast, actually hear a choral piece of the week performed by one of the podcast hosts.
Yeah.
Is it an all male choir? Am I
No, it's a mixed choir. I mean, so that's the thing. I mean, I won't be performing any of it. I won't be singing. I'll be waving my arms around.
You'll be waving your arms.
Director,
yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really fun. I mean, they've put a lot of work in, and I'm incredibly proud to show everyone in the Southwest or the village of Drew Stainton quite how brilliant the concert's going to be.
Fantastic. So in Critics Corner, Dan, now we just I'm just guiding you through the rooms. I've got my arm in the small of your back, and I'm just kind of gracefully escorting you around the rooms of the podcast. Have you been listening to or watching or reading anything recently that's caught your proverbial eye?
I have a bit, yeah.
Ooh, do tell.
And it's nothing particularly. Well, it's nothing new. I've just sort of been rewatching because I had a sort of urge.
Is this Friends again?
No. I've been going back through quite a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
So I watched all the Avengers films in order.
As in the ones that have the broad cast?
Yes.
Right.
And then watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Volume 2.
What was that like in terms of dissonance? Because they are very different properties.
They are different, aren't they? I think, 2 is definitely a better film than 1, in my opinion.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Similarly, with some of the Avengers films really excel, others fall a little bit flat.
What did you make of Age of Ultron now?
I think I enjoyed Age of Ultron more than the original Avengers film, but I think that's because I'm looking at it I'm looking back, and there's a lot of exposition in the first one, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Having watched all of the others already, I didn't hate Age of Ultron. That reminds me, Age of Ultron cast.
Because I ask because both Age of Ultron and the original Avengers have definitely, it's not that they've aged poorly, but I think we've gotten used to the Russo brother directed ones, and they have a very specific, really quite bland directing style that's quite invisible. And Joss Whedon is a lot more comic booky and he is a bit more in your face.
Yeah.
And so I think looking back now, it's almost like it's laughably cartoony in some ways compared to what we've been used to. So it would be interesting, like, sort of going back from the beginning of the Avengers films specifically, how they hold up, I guess.
I think what the one thing that made me enjoy Age of Ultron more is the time I most recently watched it, I suddenly realised why I recognised the voice of Ultron.
It's James Spader, isn't it?
Yeah, the voice of Robert California from the US Office.
Robert California. Hang on, I need to Google because I knew that, but that's just because I'd memorised what's it called? The cast list. The Office. Let's see. What does that look like?
He sneaks in the sort of 7th or 8th season, I think, and becomes the CEO. And he's an amazing character.
Oh yeah,
he's an amazing.
I wouldn't have got
character.
to him. I never made it that far into The Office.
It's great. I mean, he's really good. Yeah, but I suddenly realized I heard the voice and I kept thinking, I know this voice, and then I looked it up and suddenly realized, oh yeah, it's Robert California is the voice of Ultron, which is insane.
It's a very cool villain.
Yeah,
like, as a concept, Ultron is a fascinating character. But I mean, I don't know. I definitely think that those films peaked with Infinity War, and Endgame was fine. It was good. It was okay, but I think Infinity War was actually quite remarkable for what it achieved, in terms of as a film on its own two legs, but also drawing together all of these disparate threads, all of these different characters coming into one place. And like, you can say what you like about the Marvel films being kind of bland superhero entertainment, sure, but I think from a writing perspective, Infinity War is actually quite remarkable. And, it does have some emotional heft to it. I mean, just in case people haven't seen it, I won't say spoilers, but, there are scenes that are really quite affecting.
I'm just looking at James Spader's filmography.
Right.
And it sort of lists lots of things in it, eventually goes on to, The Office, voiced and performed motion capture of the titular character Ultron, blah, blah. He has portrayed eccentric characters in films such as the drama Sex, Lies and Videotape, 1989, the action science fiction film Stargate, 1994.
Oh, who is he in Stargate? I've seen Stargate.
And then the controversial psychological thriller Crash.
Oh, yeah, because that won Best Picture, and apparently everyone says it's awful.
Yeah.
Who was he in? He was Dan Jackson? What? That's it. So for context here, I loved watching Stargate SG-1, so the TV series of Stargate, which I believe was the longest running sci-fi series of all time, because Star Trek is kind of split into multiple different series, whereas SG-1 went on forever. So I'm used to that cast, and pretty much everybody is played by a different character. Wow. Oh yeah, Kurt Russell's in it. Gosh, I forgot about that. Anyway, James Spader plays Dan Jackson, who's like kind of a dweeby archaeologist.
The critical response of Stargate. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 53% based on 47 reviews and an average rating of 5.4 out of 10. The site's critics' consensus states, Stargate has splashy visuals and James Spader to recommend it, but corny characterization and a clunky script make it a potential ho-hum.
Well, I'm on the wiki as well, and it says, actor James Spader was intrigued by the script because he found it, quote, awful. But after meeting director Roland Emmerich, got excited about it, for he, quote, realised that making this picture was going to be such an adventure that out of that would come an adventure on screen. So what you're saying is this is so bad that just trying to make this good is going to be fun, and you'll see me having fun, which is quite an advanced viewpoint, I suppose.
I've never seen it.
I've seen the film and it's very forgettable, to be completely honest. But the TV series is great. Really would recommend SG-1, though. I mean, I don't know. I'm still working my way through all of Star Trek. I don't know if I have the mental strength to finish all of Star Trek and then look at how many seasons of Stargate there are. How many seasons of SG-1 even are there? There are, let's see, it ran for 10 years and there are 214 episodes.
Good grief.
And 2 films. So I don't know if I have the strength to go through that. After finishing Deep Space Nine, I've still got Voyager to go, and then I've got Enterprise, and then I might actually watch something else on Netflix. Actually, though, tell you what, Pixel Girl and I have got into this habit recently because we've been still on the house search, because adult things, and we've really got into watching Location with Kirsty and Phil.
Hey, look. There's another infinite universe thing here.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Stargate because James Spader is in it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about James Spader because of how much I enjoyed watching Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
No, watching Marvel films and then also watching Guardians of the Galaxy. Who also was in Stargate?
Kurt Russell. It's all connected, Dan.
It's all connected. Isn't that weird?
But anyway, what I was saying was basically that I've really fallen into this rabbit hole of watching property programs and getting irrationally angry at the people. Like there was a couple we watched yesterday who were moving to somewhere actually quite close to where Pixel Girl and I used to live in Hertfordshire, and there was a guy and an American woman that he'd married, and they were basically like, yeah, so we've got a corner sofa, and if we can't bring the corner sofa with us, we're not going to accept the house. And so they were going around all of these properties, and there's like a dream property they were looking at, and it was like measuring it out, like, no, it's a no from me. Like, I know this is everything. You know, it's an incredibly crowded property market, and you've done really well to find us this house, but it's about 2 inches too small to get that sofa in there. And it's like, what is wrong with you people? It's so hard to find a house that matches what you're looking for. The idea of holding it for something like that, or one that we watched a little while ago, was, for one thing, it was outrageous because the couple's budget was like £1.3 million, and they were looking for like a 5-bed house in the southeast. And they this couple had looked at over 90 houses. They'd had over 90 viewings and didn't like any of them. And on the show, one of the reasons they rejected a house was because the garden wasn't quite level enough. It was just a little bit too much on a slant, and so that would ruin the kids playing football. And I lost my mind a bit, Dan. I don't get it. I don't get how these people function day to day.
I wouldn't think about it too much. So that's a slippery slope.
I mean, until we find a new place to live in, which fingers crossed won't be too much longer, because there's only so long we can keep looking for and not look at every single house in Bath. You know, until that is over, I can just see that we will be watching these shows and trying to enjoy their pain when they make an offer. Because that's the other thing, is that certainly compared to the property market now, these shows are wildly unrealistic because they don't have the experience of, oh, we're going to go and look at this house, and by the time you look at it, it's actually already gone. There have been 8 offers already on this house. Or, you know, the couples were saying, and this was filmed a few years ago, it was like, yeah, it's really crowded at the moment. There are, you know, every time we look at a house, there's like 10 viewings. And for us, 10 viewings was way below the bottom end of the scale. Like, we were looking at houses with 30 viewings over a weekend, and there would be offers within the first day, you know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's insane how quickly the house market moves, and how if you want to get a property now, you basically just have to offer several £1,000s over the asking price to stand a chance.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got very real there, Dan. I just had a bit of a rant. Sorry, a rant,
as
you would say.
We love a rant.
But anyway, that's what I've been watching and sort of, I suppose, enjoying. Whereas it's quite a thing to dive into all the Marvel films. That's quite a big time commitment.
Yeah, well, it's just I've been doing it sort of on, well, I say on an evening. It's usually later than that. After I'll get into bed shattered, and I'll just think, you know, I'll stick it on. And because I've seen them before, if I sort of doze off, I can catch up on the rest of it tomorrow. I'm not that bothered. But it's just it makes for quite sort of easy viewing. And I'm quite looking forward to the new Doctor Strange film that's coming out this year.
With Sam Raimi. Yes.
It's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That's the first thing that's penetrated through my shield of indifference to Marvel products. Like, I just have not, since Endgame, I've just not cared.
Yeah.
I might check out Moon Knight. I've heard very, very good things about Moon Knight.
Oh yeah, so have I. I don't know anything about it, but I have heard good things.
It's Oscar Isaac acting against Oscar Isaac, and apparently he's really good in it. But that's the only thing I know.
Well, he's a good actor.
He is. He's a very good actor, and a good musician as well. Because I still need to watch. Is it Inside Llewellyn Davis? What's that called? Is that it?
Oh yeah. About the singer. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's him and like Justin Timberlake. It's a kind of a weird Coen Brothers film.
Yeah.
I know that our friend Hugo Wickman is a big fan. Yeah, Inside Llewellyn Davis. That's it. Yeah, I need to check that out. Oh, there's so much stuff to watch, Dan. There's not enough time. You're doing law stuff. I'm trying to run a business here and promote books and make videos and try not to go insane. And I just there's not enough time to watch things.
Yeah.
What I need is to clone myself, and we can have the one clone. We'll work in shifts. We'll do one week of work and one clone doing work and one clone just enjoying themselves, and then we'll swap. I think that's a fair way of doing it.
I think so. Seems sensible.
But then depending on what the clones watch in their off time, their personalities are just going to diverge. What happens if one of them decides to watch a film about how actually clone murder is a really good idea, and the other one doesn't know about this, and they delete it from the watch history or something, and then suddenly like, I mean, if you kill a clone of yourself, is that suicide or is it murder?
I
suppose it's still murder.
I don't know. I'm going to ask Google. Yeah.
We're both Googling. If you kill your clone, is it suicide? I feel like it should be murder.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like killing a twin.
Yeah, the answer seemed to be murder. You're not killing yourself. You're killing your clone.
Right. So basically, this is a high risk, high reward strategy because there's like a 99.9% chance that actually I would be able to enjoy myself much, much more and get more work done. And like a 0.1% chance that I might get murdered or become a murderer. I wouldn't trust me. I wouldn't work with me. This is a terrible idea now I think about it.
It's the kind of thoughts, these sort of deep thoughts that I have in the shower. It's sort of like, what was the one I read the other day? Warm water tastes rounder in the mouth than cold water.
Yes. Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
Warm water is booba, cold water is kiki.
Yeah.
Would you clone yourself? Is that a risk that you'd be willing to take? Or would you find yourself insufferable?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose to what end? Would it be a common, would this become a regular thing that everybody was going to clone themselves and then the clone would be sort of acting as a sort of personal assistant?
God, imagine that. Yeah, a world where everybody just overnight, everybody wakes up and there's a clone of them in bed next to them. What on earth would happen? There's a prompt, people. If any readers want a prompt for some creative writing, there you go. There's a free one. I kind of want to know. Yeah.
Well, if that happened, and both you and the clone were unaware that it was going to happen, and your clone had your memories up until that point, there would be no way of knowing who the original one was.
Oh my God, you're right.
Which would be terrifying, because you could wake up and say, like, why are you here? And they say, well, no, why are you here? It's like, don't be silly. You weren't here yesterday. And they're like, yeah, no, you weren't here yesterday.
Yeah, I went to bed yesterday on my own. Oh, yeah. This is fun. Because if you had a clone of yourself, suddenly, like, all crimes, like, having an alibi. There are some people who would definitely use that as, like, sweet. Now I've got an alibi for I couldn't have possibly robbed that bank because, look, I'm on security camera here at the cafe or whatever. You get people like me who would have one clone but then one clone, it's not like the information travels from one clone to the other. So I can't have one clone watch Star Trek and enjoy it and the other clone do work and then they swap. Like, yeah, eventually, I think that's the thing that's interesting to me is how they would diverge and how quickly.
Weird, isn't it?
I like this a lot.
It is interesting.
You know what else is interesting, Dan, though? Why people support us on Patreon.
Wow, flawless.
Top lad.
Oh, I'm a bit weirded out by that clone thing.
That's a writing prompt.
Mm.
Would you your clone?
No.
You got to put in as much as you put. You know.
My clone would me though.
I like how you know that with absolute certainty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who wouldn't? Top dog. So it's that time again when we find ourselves in Patreon Corner. It's that moment in the podcast where we say an enormous thank you to those who support us on Patreon. And without those support, we wouldn't exist. Simon and I would physically stop existing.
Gone.
Without your generous donations every month, we wouldn't be able to pay for our wonderful editor. We wouldn't be able to pay for our hosting. And we wouldn't be able to put wonderful plans in the pipeline for when we're going to actually meet up and do some stuff in person for Spongy and Electric. Obviously, we haven't been able to do that for a while, what with the small global pandemic and things. But there are plans afoot.
But we do have some dates. We have some dates in the calendar.
We do indeed.
And if you do choose to support us on patreon.com/the Wikicast, then basically you can we're not asking for very much. You can basically sub us the cost of a Coke once a month, if you like. And that goes to our wonderful current editor, Fergus. And it also goes to, supporting all of these things. So you can do that at like a Coke per month, or you can do it at what's $5? That's like a meal deal a month.
A large Starbucks coffee.
A large Starbucks coffee or a Boots meal deal a month. And when doing that, you can choose to be either on Team Cat or Team Dog, depending on which you think is the superior household pet. I, of course, am correct in thinking that the cat is the superior household pet. And so I would like to thank the people who have pledged at the top cat level. Those people are Jean-Claude Marais, Andy Hartley, Nathan Flaherty, Abu El Ella, the Physics Boy, Simon P, Jack Easton, Izzy CC, Nafi Iftikhar, Dame Valerie III, Layla Medina, Oliver Craigie, Will Jennis Humphreys, Rents Kirk, Oliver Burkhart, Easy, Omar Miranda, Colm Mansfield, Princess Andromeda, Choco Cat, Ben Dent, Isabella Strowski, Lewis Watson, Matt McGuire, and the one and only Dan Hanvey.
And I would like to say an enormous thank you to the top dogs, the clear supreme pet of choice. So an enormous thank you to Jay Wright, Ben McMurtry, Peter Reed, Kodzo, Colin J. Brown, Alistair Fortune, Eve Sharples, Lexi at Front Desk, Hasse Hansen, Aaron Jorgensen, Henry VII, King of England and of France, Lord of Ireland, Naf Laroch, Andrian with an N, Chan, Ben Caples, Josh Chiaga, Martin Narciso, Christian from the Alps, Amy Bonney, Lexi at Front Desk's boss, and Carl Valrod, which I think may be a new top dog.
Sounds like it. I'd remember that name.
Which is incredibly exciting. Welcome to the fold, Carl.
Top lad. And we find ourselves in Correspondence Corner. And we have a couple of emails here. First of all, from Lewis, titled Netflix Comfort Viewing. Dear Sir Clark and Dame Moore, it's your favourite confused teen again with a Netflix recommendation. As a Formula One hardcore and anorak, it is to me what Choral Music and Games Workshop is to you two. I'm with you. I thoroughly always enjoy Drive. There's a typo. Enjoy Drive to Survive on Netflix, which, by the way, has created a 400% increase in ticket sales to F1 events in the US. Wow.
I've actually, you know what? I've heard a lot about Drive. F1 is very, very big on campus at Exeter.
Is it? I didn't know that.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And I've got a friend who absolutely lives and breathes it. And I've heard that Drive is amazing. I haven't seen it.
Because my parents are really into it. I mean, my parents are the kind of people that are just into sport, full stop. Like any kind of sport, they will delight in following. And you know, there'll be some big event, with the exception of, I think, golf. Golf they don't really follow, but like everything else, they will have an opinion on and will have followed it.
Yeah.
And F1 is definitely one that they really enjoy watching. I'm gonna have to give it a go, because I see the appeal.
Shall we aim to watch at least one episode of Drive before we do the next podcast?
Tell you what, you're on. I will enjoy an episode of Drive to Survive.
Yeah, and if it's any good, I may watch more.
And Lewis also continues, however, if you are to watch, they do have a large issue with creating drama out of nothing. Don't worry, we've met Sopranos before. However, it is a very good series and a good insight to Formula One. I really do recommend it. Thanks, Lewis Bassendale. This time stuck in a naan bread. What?
Yeah, standard stuff.
Sure, silly me. But, okay, Lewis, you're on. I will make a note to watch an episode.
We have another email here, and the email is titled Peter Fox, and it's from Jakob.
Ooh.
Or Jacob.
Let's go with Jakob. Sounds more interesting.
Jakob says, "Hello, Dan and Simon. I just wanted to underscore Christian's music recommendation from the latest episode. Stadtaffe by Peter Fox is also one of my favourite albums. I have listened to it a lot over the past few years and have intuitively memorised much of the lyrics by now. It's hard to recommend his music to non-German speakers, though, because much of what makes the album so great is the cleverly constructed and incredibly rich lyrics. But the songs also have great instrumentals with orchestral and percussive elements, so it might work for non-German speakers. If you want to give his music a try, I recommend the songs Haus am See, which is about happily retiring in a house next to the lake, and Der letzte Tag, which is a couple enjoying their last day before the apocalypse.
God, blimey, cheery stuff.
Der letzte Tag. Oh yeah, Tag is in the last day, I guess, is that?
I've got the album up on Spotify, and it's interesting. The whole album is actually grayed out.
Oh.
So obviously it's on Spotify, but there's like a legal issue. This seems to happen sometimes, where like it's like Spotify is like, this exists, we know it exists, but we can't play it to you. But all of the there is not a single track on this album that has less than 5 million listens.
Yeah, so Jakob goes on to say, what is remarkable about the career of Peter Fox, which incidentally is just a fantastic name, is that he was incredibly successful with only one album.
Oh!
While he's also a member of the music group Seed, Stadtaffe remains his only studio album as a solo artist.
Wow. I mean, I just looking through this, like these track numbers don't lie. Like, I mean, the most listened to track is actually not one that they've recommended. It's the first track called Alles. Oh God, I'm never sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. Alles Neu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's New, which has got 66 million plays.
Wow.
House Am See has 48 or nearly 50 million, and Der letzte Tag has 15 million.
Gosh.
I have to try and track this down somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have a listen to this after the podcast.
Yeah, because I mean, very naively, like my experience of German music is either Bach or Kraftwerk. It's kind of it's one extreme or the other.
I used to listen to a lot of, I think they're a German band. The band it's NEU exclamation mark.
So New.
You got it.
Interesting. Funnily enough, actually, Pixel Girl went to a wedding the other week in Cologne, and she came back, and she had been to Germany before, but she'd never learned the language or anything. And she came back and she was buzzing. She loved Cologne and was she does this, to be fair, whenever she visits anyway. She was like looking into, could we move there? Could we do like a year abroad there? And just generally was so excited about the place. So she, I'm sure, would, I don't know, maybe I'll pop this recommendation over her, see if it's on Apple Music. But yeah, because I mean, I have to say, I agree with her in that whenever I visited Germany, I've had a fantastic time. It's a wonderful country. Really like the way, I like the culture. I like the way that things are done. It's very similar to the UK, to be fair. It's in that everyone likes complaining about how the trains are.
Yeah.
And yet, compared to British trains, German trains are immaculate and always on time.
That's an amazing place. I want to go back to Germany. I haven't been in ages.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we've got a little sample to listen to, so we can pretend that we're there.
Absolutely. Jakob closes by saying, thank you for all the entertaining non-content. Jakob, aged 0.23 Queen Elizabeths.
Like it.
P.S. Are we sure that Queen Elizabeth makes sense as a unit of time? She's still alive and still getting older, so as time progresses, the unit gradually increases.
Jakob, I need you to listen to me. Nothing about this show makes sense.
No, nothing. Absolutely
Of course it makes sense that the unit that we choose and have ultimate power over is a nonsensical unit.
Yeah. PPS, I recently finished listening to the audiobook version of Firmament.
Hey!
While I most likely won't remember much of the details, I did find the explanations of scientific discovery over the centuries really interesting, and I do have a bigger appreciation for atmospheric science now.
There we go. That's what we want to hear. That's an advert for Firmament, people.
Amazing.
Didn't pay him to say that.
Amazing. And then Jakob's just done he said, don't read this out, but he sent through his Bax transfer details. So if you want to send him over that money for the recommendation, that'd be good.
Send a tenner over now.
Yeah, great.
There, thanks, mate. Well, Dan, what have we learned about today?
Today, Simon, we learned about the Plateau fence lizard.
Oh, yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, a species of spiny lizard, generally found in central Arizona, southwestern Utah, western Colorado, and the San Luis Valley.
With keeled scales.
Yeah. Up to 80 millimeters from snout to vent.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's on the box. That's a little green star, word art star with that text in red.
We also had a preliminary discussion about the tragic loss of the episode that we actually recorded that was meant to be released a week ago, but we couldn't because my old laptop just decided to give up the ghost.
Very sad.
It's very
very sad.
But hopefully this one will be fine. I'm hoping that when I actually stop recording and play this audio back, it's all going to be all right. So if you're, if you're reading this podcast right now, then it will have been fine.
Thumbs up.
But cross your fingers for me anyway.
And you cheated by giving an entire concert's worth of material for your choral piece of the week.
Yeah,
as is your right. Mm-hmm. And I ranted about... I ranted about property programs on Channel 4.
Marvellous.
God, I'm middle class.
Yeah,
when did this happen?
Middle class, middle-aged. It's brilliant.
Middle intelligence.
Yeah.
That's all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. Join the Discord, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Your favourite species of lizard, nondescript measurements of items in your immediate vicinity that measure no more than 80 millimeters from snout to vent, and other thoughts on the show.
I'm just gonna step in here. Dan, what the what was that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Your favourite species of spiny lizard, rankings on your favourite Marvel films, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole.
And we'll see you next time.
I'm still thinking about how your clone would you. I'm just sorry. That's
okay.
That line is just rattling around my head.
I'm not going to include that in the call to arms at the end of the podcast.
Fergus, you know what to put at the end.
If you your clone, other thoughts on the show.